information on a WRAL investigation and concerns about public safety. Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Megan Glova. We reported just a few weeks ago that Durham's district attorney swiped into the office only about half of workdays. WRAL Investigates reporter Sarah Krueger joins us now with that update. And Sarah, she had claimed this data was incomplete in part because of, quote, issues with the courthouse's security system. What did you find when you looked into this?
Yeah, so as soon as she told us that, that was something that we started looking into because obviously that would bring up concerns about public safety. I mean, this is a major building in downtown Durham with a lot of sensitive information and high-profile people, and obviously the security of it is something that really should be paramount. So as soon as we got that claim from her, I started looking into it every way that I could. Including I reached out to the Durham County Sheriff's Office, which is housed inside the courthouse and oversees security for the building. And I asked them, hey, do you know of any security issues at the courthouse, issues with the security system? And, if so, what are they? When did they happen? Or have they been addressed? And the Sheriff's Office, a spokesperson got back to me and said, no, we don't know of any security system issues at the courthouse.
Okay, so, with no evidence of courthouse security issues, what did DA DeBerry have to say about this? Anything?
Nope, nothing.
I
did reach out to her with a number of questions, and she wrote back with no comment. And I'll also mention I reached out to Durham County through the Public Affairs Office and through the Public Records Request portal and, inquired with them to see if they knew anything about security system issues, and if so, if they could provide documentation, information, let me know what those issues were, when they happened, if they were fixed. And this has been months now that I have been trying to get answers from the county since January, repeatedly following up, and it's crickets. Have not heard anything from them.
Gotcha. So, the courthouse was actually built with more security in mind less than 10 years ago. When we come back, we'll hear more from Sarah about that. So, Sarah, the courthouse we're talking about is actually fairly new with top-of-the-line security. Tell us a bit about that project and what some of those security features are and maybe how that plays into this story.
Yeah, so for this story, I reached out to the sheriff, as I mentioned, the sheriff's office, to try to get information, and then also to try to get an interview with the sheriff just to better understand security at the building and, what they're doing to ensure that it is safe for the staff members who work there and safe for the public. The current sheriff, I was told, was unavailable, so I did get in touch with the former sheriff, Mike Andrews, and he actually was in office when the transition happened in 2013 from the old courthouse to now this new courthouse. And he was in on a lot of the planning meetings about, everything that was going into the construction of this new courthouse. And when I spoke with former Sheriff Andrews, he told me security was always discussed. It was discussed at every single meeting. And that was, in fact, one impetus for building this new courthouse, was to ensure that it had top-of-the-line security. And so I was going back, this was now, I guess, about 12 years ago, and I was going back through all of the agenda documents and different project websites that I could find that mentioned construction of the new courthouse, and I found the construction firm website that has a page about the project, and it is touting this building's security. It talks about how fortified everything is, but then also talks about how there are 175 card readers on doors within the courthouse. So to be navigating within that building, you would need to be swiping a lot if you're someone who has access to, the offices and the different areas that the general public does not. And then also talking with former Sheriff Andrews, he talked about the security just even with parking. If you're an official, if you're someone who, works as a judge there or as a DA, that you have to, he says, swipe in just to enter your parking area. which makes sense that it's, that's secure. And he was explaining, like, you swipe in to park and then you swipe straight to an elevator that brings you to a special hallway. And just the way he described it, I mean, you're swiping all the time, that everything is pretty locked down.
Right. And so, forgive me, I haven't been inside this courthouse myself. So this is more than just, not swiping to enter and exit. There's also swiping going on within the building itself that maybe we're not seeing as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I mean, I have spent a lot of time in that courthouse.
Yeah.
And of course, I never swipe. I mean, it's, the general public just walks in the front doors, goes through security, goes through, the metal detectors, goes up a public elevator into a courtroom. But for people who actually work there, there's, different hallways that are not accessible to the general public. And that enables judicial officials to, get to places, I guess, perhaps more directly or at least more securely. I mean, the building itself, the courthouse, even connects to the jail. So, of course, those areas would be super secure and not anywhere that the public could go.
Sure thing. And so with all that in mind, would it even be possible for DA DeBerry to get into the office or go throughout her day without swiping, do you think?
So I asked former Sheriff Andrews about that. Would it be possible for someone who works within the courthouse to go a whole day without swiping? And I mean, he said if someone held every door open for you, like if you think about you're with a group of people who work there and, one person swipes and holds the door for the rest of people, like, sure, there is a way that could happen. But it does seem like it would be unlikely to be able to go an entire day moving around multiple parts of the courthouse without swiping, just given, the fact that there are 175 doors that have card readers in the courthouse. So, I mean, if you get dropped off at the courthouse like a public citizen and you walk through the front doors and go straight to the courtroom like the public, maybe, but what former Sheriff Andrews was saying is, in his experience, the people who work at the courthouse are taking those secure routes, and it would be very difficult to be present for a full day and not use your swipe card.
Right. And, you did mention a handful of people that maybe you didn't hear from in the midst of this story, but are there any answers you're still waiting for, still hoping to get that might give us even more clarification in this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to hear from the county. I think if there are issues at the courthouse, that's something that the public should know about, as it being a public building and funded by tax dollars, and just a very well-traveled building. And if there are issues, I would like to know, and I think the public would like to know what they are and what's being done to address them. So at this point, kind of all signs point to there not being any issues, but should I get information to the contrary, I would have a lot more follow-up questions then about what's going on there.
Okay, Sarah, thanks so much, and thanks for another great investigation.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download. You may be listening to us on WRAL.com or the WRAL News app, but you can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or really anywhere you listen to podcasts. Follow the show so you don't miss an episode. I'm Megan Glova. Thanks for listening.